Hey guys, and welcome back. We're jumping into the inversion blending group. So there are two blending modes within inversion. We have difference and exclusion, and they're incredibly similar. Basically, they just differ in like how they calculate light and dark levels and what happens when similar colors meet. So when similar colors meet within the difference blending mode, they turn to black. When they meet within the exclusion blending mode, they turn to 50% gray. Basically, it just like inverts your colors and can do some really interesting things with color effects. So definitely has a limited subset of uses when you're trying to do something more graphic oriented, artistic oriented, maybe even like fashion oriented, somewhere where you can kind of push the boundaries and do something out of the traditional norm. This is when you're going to be using the blending modes within the group. So let's go ahead and take a look at our first blending mode within the group. It's called difference, and we're going to use it to apply some really interesting colors to the highlights and shadows of an image. So let's go ahead and open up our sample images here. We're in section 20. There we go. And you'll also notice the difference has an asterisk, meaning this is part of our special 8. So opacity and fill will affect this blending mode differently. So let's go ahead and open up our image here. I'm going to hit F for full screen, and we're going to pop a solid color fill layer on there. It's got light purple, looks really nice. And let's go ahead and change this down to difference. So difference, as you can see, we do have complementary colors. This purple that we have here and these greens, these are complementary colors. So difference will actually produce complementary colors, which is really interesting. So we have the reds and the teals. Okay, and as we go down the list, you're going to see we have inverted complementary colors, which really looks nice. So it's a really great effect for coloring your images. Now, you'll also notice we get lighter and darker. Black pretty much does nothing. So you want to be sticking with your lighter colors and your more saturated colors as well. Oops, I adjusted my hue there to really get these effects. So the less saturated you get, basically it just turns to gray, and the darker you get, your effect completely goes away. So if you really want to affect somewhere right about here is really kind of where you want to be hanging out. So let's just choose, there we go, something like that looks pretty good. Now obviously at this point, this is like a super strong effect, right? It's taking over your entire image. So this is where opacity and fill come into the mix. And it is a special 8 group, so opacity and fill are going to look different. So let's go ahead, I'm going to bring my opacity to, let's see, about 40%. So I'm going to hit V and then the number 4. There we go, and we'll just type in 040 so we can see. We've done this a few times by now. I just want to make sure you guys get a nice, easy way of seeing a before and after. Okay, so here we have, this is, and let's just zoom in so we can really see what's going on with the detail here. This is how our image looks like with a fill of 40%, and let's turn this on, and this is how it looks like with an opacity of 40%. So fill basically is determining what areas are actually going to get affected. So you get some areas that are, just going to be the original image, and then you can see it kind of like blends in. Whereas opacity is going to affect the entire thing. It's just going to make it less visible. So for most cases, I think using difference in fill blending mode works just a little bit better because you do tend to get some of the colors from the original. So let's go ahead and lower the fill on this layer. I'm going to hit Shift 2 to bring it to 20%. And we can see it does, in fact, color the image quite a bit. And it does it in actually a really cool, subtle way. It's putting these reds here into these shadows. And I think it's a really, really nice effect. Now, do keep in mind that because we're using a solid color fill layer, I can simply double click on this solid color fill layer, and we can change this effect at any time. So one thing that I really like about this difference blending mode is that it does introduce complementary colors into your image. There we go, because as we can see, when we have let's hit Shift 0, when we have an opacity and fill of 100%, basically it's going to put the main color that you have chosen into your shadows, and then it's going to put the invert into the highlights, which looks really cool. So let's go ahead and hit Shift 2 back to 20%, or maybe, yeah, 20% looks pretty good. It's just another interesting way to add colors to a photo. So if you're looking to create a graphic or an edit that you can really play around and kind of push your color work and have some fun, difference is a really, really great place to play around. So that's it for the difference blending mode. Next, we're going to take a look at exclusion, which is in the same inversion group. And basically, when similar colors mix, instead of turning them to black, like they do here with difference, they're going to turn to 50% gray. So it's a similar effect, it's just going to be a little bit lighter. All right, guys, we'll see you in that video.